Getting the Chaos Emeralds early was annoying, but it was kinda worth it. Wait, what? Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Argonaut, and continuing with my Sonic Marathon, we're going to be taking a look back at Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the true, faster-paced sequel to the original Sonic the Hedgehog, including its development history, story, and gameplay, as well as my thoughts on it. So far, I've already looked back at Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, and Sonic CD. If you like this video and want to see more like it, feel free to click that subscribe button to keep up with me. I'd really appreciate it. And, now with all that shameless promotion out of the way, on with the video! After the success of Sonic 1, Sega knew they wanted to follow up with a sequel. And, after seeing how Sonic 1 had really pushed the Genesis sales in America, Sega wanted to put their focus on the Western market and founded a new branch in America called the Sega Technical Institute, or STI for short. Which I won't be calling it that due to obvious reasons, but the point of this new American branch was to take American creativity and combine it with Japanese engineering to create a game more tailored to its Western audience. At the helm of this new branch was Mark Cheney, and he managed to convince some of the creators of the original Sonic game to join him, including Yuji Naka, who had left Sega of Japan due to feeling underpaid and unrecognized, despite how successful the first Sonic game had been. Unfortunately though, Sega had only given the team 9 months to finish the sequel by the 1992 holiday season. And on top of everything else, there were a little bit of cultural differences between the Americans and Japanese members of the team, including language barriers and different work styles, like how the Americans were used to working 9 to 5, and the Japanese were used to crunch culture, where they would work really long hours, sometimes even choosing to sleep in the office. Things at one point got so bad that during the 9-month period, Cheney would end up leaving the company due to the tension between the Americans and Japanese, and it seemed like it broke down to a Japanese versus American type thing instead of them working together to accomplish a goal, with people like Yuji Naka preferring to only work with the Japanese members of the team and not even wanting to bother with the Americans. And also, due to the tight deadlines, a lot of content was actually removed from the game, mainly American-designed levels, including most famously a level called the Hidden Palace Zone, which was supposed to explain the origin of the Chaos Emeralds and grant Sonic his supersonic form. Despite everything and all the pressure from above, the Sega team was able to get Sonic the Hedgehog 2 out on time, even shipping the source code to Japan on 2 different planes in case there was an issue with one of them getting there on time. And, on Tuesday, November 24th, 1992, Sonic released in both US and EU. Now, let's check out how the gameplay and story was for the game. The very first time I played Sonic 2 was back in 2004 with the Sonic Mega Collection Plus for PS2, since when the game officially came out, I was 1. I thought it was definitely a big improvement over the first game and loved the addition of Tails as a character. And, before playing Sonic CD in 2012, this was actually my favorite of the classic series. But, now for this video, I actually played the Sonic Origins version of the game, and played with Amy and Tails. For the story of this game, Dr. Robotnik is at it again with his woodland creature kidnapping ways to collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds so he can power his new weapon, the Death Egg. A weapon that when fully powered up will... I don't know, destroy the planet or something? After all these years, I'm honestly still not fully sure what the Death Egg actually does. But, back to stop him is Sonic, who this time is accompanied by his new friend Tails, a two-tailed fox that he saved from some bullies while he was passing through one day. And afterwards, Tails decided to follow Sonic in his adventures. Now, for the gameplay of this game, it's pretty much the same as the first game, where you run and jump to make your way to the end of a stage while avoiding traps and enemies. Only this time, Sonic can move way faster than he could in the first game. Apparently in the first game, the team thought that Sonic moved too fast, so they actually put a cap on his speed. In Sonic 2, that cap has been removed. Now, although the gameplay is fundamentally the same, they added a whole bunch of new things to this game. New to Sonic 2 is a move called the Spin Dash. It was put in the game to help with the first game's biggest criticism, that sometimes you'd have to backtrack to build up speed and momentum before you can move forward again. And It would go on to become a staple of the franchise, so much so that sometimes people occasionally forget that you actually didn't have it in the first game. And, also new to this game, Tails can join Sonic throughout his adventure as well. Now, personally, I don't feel like he really adds too much to the game by playing with him tagging along, since he just mimics the player's movements about a second after they do it, but it is nice that if you hit up on the D-pad and the jump button, he'll start flying, and if you can make your character jump onto him, he'll actually ferry you higher than you could ever jump, giving you access to a whole bunch of new locations. The real fun with Tails comes if you have like a friend or sibling or something they could hand a second controller to, and they can take control of them. Unfortunately though, this game revolves around Sonic, and the camera is always focused on Sonic, so if Sonic leaves Tails behind, then Tails basically gets reset. I know nowadays this feature is kinda whatever, but at the time, I don't think anyone could ever actually imagine multiplayer being in a Sonic game like that. But the fun part with Tails is, since the camera and all the attention is on Sonic, you could do whatever you want. You could take whatever risk you want, you could die as much as you want, it doesn't matter. As long as Sonic doesn't die, the game keeps going forward. But also returning to Sonic 2 are the Chaos Emeralds. Only this time, instead of 6, there are now 7 for some reason. By the way, it was the purple one. The purple one's the one that got added. And in order to collect them, instead of reaching the end of a stage with 50 rings, like in Sonic 1, you have to make it up to these signposts that serve as checkpoints with at least 50 rings. And then a portal opens up which will take you to the Special Zone. The Special Zone in Sonic 2 has been completely changed from the one in Sonic 1. And, I mean, what's up with that, by the way? Like, story-wise, how did Sonic even lose the Chaos Emeralds from the first game to begin with? And how did they go back to the Special Zone? And why did the Special Zone change itself? But anyway, for the Special Zone this time around, instead of going through the trippy maze like in the first game, you instead run down a half-pipe and have to collect a certain amount of rings before you reach a certain checkpoint. Do this 3 times, and you get a Chaos Emerald. If you don't, you get booted out and have to look for another signpost to try again. Now, getting these isn't as easy as you might think at first. There are also mines scattered throughout the stages that you need to dodge as well, and if that isn't bad enough, even if you dodge them with split-second timing, there's a fair chance Tails won't. Oh, that's right, I forgot to mention that Tails actually comes into the special stages with you too! And whenever you play with Tails, the ring requirement that you need is higher to account for him, but fortunately he can pick up some of the rings that you miss. Unfortunately though, if he gets hit by the mines, he'll drop the rings that he picked up. Now, Tails mimics all of Sonic's movements roughly a half second after he does them, so for split-second instances, he won't be able to keep up. While it may be easier to get through these stages without Tails, who the hell wants to play Sonic 2 without Tails? It feels like him being there is the way the game was meant to be played. Back when I was a kid, I got around this by plugging in 2 controllers and having Tails basically stay out of the way. And, luckily for the Origins version of the game, I can keep trying as much as I feel like. Otherwise, I don't know how people were able to get all the Chaos Emeralds by themselves and playing with Tails back in the day. But, once you get all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you unlock Super Sonic, who feels like he's based on something, but I'm not sure exactly what. But anyway, as Super Sonic, Sonic has enhanced speed and invulnerability, but he can still be killed from being crushed. And some of the crush detection in this game was a little bit weird to me. There were points where I would tap something as it was closing and the game considered that me getting crushed. Playing Super Sonic through a level wasn't always as easy as it seemed. The enhanced speed actually messed up some of my platforming, making it somewhat of its own challenge. There were a couple times where there was a random pitfall right before a boss fight too, that I would speed into, causing me to have a fight with the boss the regular way. But I just love how adding Super Sonic to the game adds an extra layer on how you approach a level. And the thing with Super Sonic is, you need 50 rings minimum to transform, and as long as you're in the transformation, it'll drain your rings. So, there's definitely a sense of urgency once you start using it, because who wants to be left in a Sonic level with no rings? Now, speaking of the levels, even with all the cut content, there's way more levels in this game as opposed to Sonic 1. While Sonic 1 only had 7 zones, Sonic 2 has 11 zones. all of which are more massive than the ones from the first game, and are way better designed this time around if you ask me. It doesn't feel like this game has as much stop and go, but at the same time, it offers more of a challenge than the ones from Sonic 1 and Sonic CD, with the traps and enemy placement. And like I mentioned before, even if you go supersonic, it doesn't completely break the levels. Although, this time around, they completely got rid of the third act and put the boss at the end of the second act. And, speaking of the bosses, they're definitely better than the ones from Sonic 1 and Sonic CD, although none of them were especially notable to me, besides the ones at the end. Now, let me set the stage for you really quick. After chasing Robotnik through all the zones, Tails, while flying Sonic's plane, yes, it's actually Sonic's plane that he has for some reason. It's even confirmed in Sonic Origins with its cutscene at the end of Sonic CD, but Tails flies Sonic up to Robotnik's airship where Sonic hitches a ride on it all the way until they get up to the Death Egg in space, where he then has to fight against Mecha Sonic, which honestly isn't that bad, but immediately afterwards, we get to see Robotnik pull the greatest feat of all time and freaking outrun Sonic. I mean, Sonic's whole thing is he runs at supersonic speeds, and Robotnik, this regular man, is able to freaking outrun him in a straight line. But, moving on, Robotnik then hops into what makes this game so hard: the Death Egg robot. Now, again, this boss itself isn't too bad, it only has like 2 attacks, but what makes it bad are the awkward hitboxes. You're supposed to hit its underbelly or its body, but the problem is, if you touch its leg, you're dead. If you accidentally touch the spiked hands, you're also dead. And keep in mind that throughout this whole section, you have 0 rings. Imagine playing all of Sonic 2 to lose all of your lives here and have to restart the whole game again. At the end of the day, I got through this boss using Amy's hammer, which slightly expands her hitbox without counting as her touching anything, and I can only assume at this point that the boss was made this way by design, or else they would have changed it with all the many Sonic 2 ports and remasters they've had over the years. I think I spent like maybe a whole hour trying to kill this thing, and it just feels so out of place compared to all the other bosses from the classic Sonic series. I mean, even for the Mecha Sonic fight, it's not as bad, but you need to jump on him to damage him, so the strategy would be to hit him in between attacks. But, at the same time, if you happen to hit him a little too close to the back of the head, it counts as you hitting the spikes, and you die anyway. I can't help but just feel like this is a hitbox error. But, moving on, after you beat the Egg Emperor, you get the ending of Sonic escaping the Death Egg as it's exploding, and as he's plummeting to Earth from space, not able to do anything, Tails catches him on the wing of his plane, and they ride off together. Now, I know that there's also the true ending to the game, where the same thing happens, but Sonic goes super and basically saves himself, but I feel like that version of the ending basically invalidates Tails' whole reason for being there in the plane in the first place, so I kinda consider the normal ending to be the real one. This is actually another thing that Sonic 2 did that the first game didn't: silent storytelling. The first game basically just throws you in there, and even by the end of the game, it's just Sonic running through a field of flowers with little woodland creatures hopping around. In Sonic 2, from the Sky Chase Zone onward, it's actually able to tell your story without any words being said from any of the characters. The last thing I want to talk about really quickly before moving on is that Sonic 2 was actually able to add a multiplayer mode, where you and a friend could go split screen and race against each other through stages to see who could get to the end first, which is still crazy that they did that here, but apparently couldn't do something like this for Sonic Superstars. I'm sorry, I'm still just kinda sad about how good that game actually could have been. But, with that, let's move on to the aftermath of Sonic 2. After Sonic 2 came out, it sold 400,000 copies within a week, and by 2006, it had sold 6 million copies worldwide, making it the second best-selling Genesis game after the first Sonic game. It also introduced Tails, a huge mainstay for the franchise, and the spin dash move, which has basically been in every Sonic game since then. When Sonic 2 came out, Sega put in a lot of effort into marketing it as a Sonic Tuesday type thing, like a blockbuster movie, where they released it everywhere on the same day instead of regionally, which was really unusual at this time. But Them doing this with Sonic 2 is one of the main reasons that new games tend to be released on Tuesdays ever since then. Sonic 2 also even got converted into live action form in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Unfortunately though, after the game released, Yuji Naka refused to work with Americans anymore, and the team basically broke into two. The Japanese members that were led by Naka, who would go on to start working on Sonic 3, and the Americans who would later on go to work on Sonic Spinball, based on the casino level in Sonic 2. It's actually crazy that a project that was supposed to bring out the best of the two cultures ended up dividing both of them. The first time I played Sonic 2 in 2004, it became my favorite of the classic Sonic games. Playing it now gives me a huge appreciation seeing just how much was improved and added from the first game. The speed, the cohesiveness of the levels, the addition of Tails and multiplayer, Supersonic. If anything, it's actually incredible that despite the tight deadline and all the conflict happening in the background, that this game didn't come out as a hot mess, but actually became one of the most notable Sonic games of all time. Like, playing the game, you couldn't even tell that there were so many issues going on in the background or a crazy tight deadline like 9 months. And those are my thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sega's ambitious sequel. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts or memories about Sonic the Hedgehog 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. And, with that being said, next time in the Sonic Marathon, I'm going to be moving on to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.